Subscribe to Bloody Monday and watch chilling horror stories almost every week. Don't forget to press the bell icon.
This incident is of 2012, when I was doing my engineering. It was my first year in college, and I was allotted room number 138 in my hostel. From my very first day in the hostel, strange things were happening with me. Every night, after I slept, I could hear a boy cry at around midnight. It seemed as if someone was beating up the boy badly. Sometimes I felt that someone had entered my room and stood by the window staring at me. I was even more scared when my roommate said that he never heard any strange sounds. In the first month at college, we were given a 4-day break, and a lot of students had gone back home, and very few had stayed back in the hostel. My roommate had also gone home, and I was all alone in my room. That night, it rained heavily. As I remember, there was a loud knock on my door at around 12 in the night. When I opened the door, I did not find anyone out there. But the moment I turned back, I found that my room had become a complete mess. The rain had gotten heavier, and it led to a power cut in the hostel. A few moments later, there was again a loud, banging noise at the door. But this time, there was no one outside. Then I saw that the room adjacent to mine, which was always locked, was somehow open. I don't know what I was thinking, but I just couldn't stop myself from going into that room. The moment I entered, the door behind me shut on its own. I could again hear the sound of someone crying that kept me up all night. That's when the cupboard in the room started shaking vigorously. It looked like someone was in the room and that he was trying to break out. Just then, I heard the glass window shatter, and when I turned towards it, I saw a boy hanging from the fan amidst a thunder of lightning. That sight scared me out of my wits, and I ran out of the room to the hostel guard and told him everything. The guard accompanied me back to room number 137, and when we reached there, I couldn't believe my eyes. The room was locked from the outside. The guard told me that the room had been locked for the last 15 years. He told me that a boy used to stay in this room who fell in love with one of the professor's daughters. The professor didn't approve of their relationship at all, and on the night of the annual fest, the professor hanged that boy to death. I was stunned to find out that even that boy shared the same name as mine. The very next morning, I got my hostel changed. After that night, nothing of that sort happened with me again, but still, I could never gather the courage to even cross that hostel again.
In 1992, a 21-year-old boy named Mike was studying at a college in America. The Christmas preparations were in full swing, and all the students had got a long vacation to visit home and celebrate Christmas with their loved ones. But Mike and his roommate were working on a special project, and they decided to stay back in the hostel and continue working on it. Just 2 days before Christmas, Matty and Mike were watching a horror movie at night. After the movie, they both started talking about the different horror legends they knew of. That was the first time Matty told Mike about the legend of Bloody Mary. Matty told him that if a person stands alone in front of a mirror and calls out the name of Bloody Mary 3 times, the ghost of Bloody Mary comes out from the mirror and kills the person. Mike found the tale of Bloody Mary very fascinating and made up his mind to call her. He went to the washroom late at night and called out Bloody Mary's name 3 times in front of a mirror. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. He waited for a while, but nothing happened, and Mike went back to bed. That night, he saw a dream. He was standing in front of a sea all by himself, and there was no one to be found. Then he suddenly saw a woman's shadow in the reflection of the water. As soon as he bent down to look at the woman's face carefully, a hand came out from the water, and Mike woke up. He looked around and found Matty sleeping peacefully, but a scared Mike was awake for most part of the night. The next morning, when Mike went to the washroom, there was a crack in the mirror, and he found the blood dripping down through that crack. Mike couldn't believe what he saw. That night, Mike saw another dream where he was standing in a dark room and surrounded by a lot of mirrors. He could hear his own voice echoing in his ears. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. Soon, all of the mirrors started to crack. In one of the mirrors, he found a strange, blue-coloured baby cry. He started walking towards that mirror, but as soon as he came near it, all of the other mirrors in the room disappeared. The moment Mike turned behind, he saw the ghost of Bloody Mary. Mike snapped out of his sleep, and he was completely shaken up by the nightmare. He woke up Matty and told him everything that happened with him. Matty didn't believe a single word he said, and dismissed him, saying it was all just a story. But because Mike was so pushy, both of them decided to call Bloody Mary again that night and apologise to her. This time, they followed the complete ritual of calling Bloody Mary. They lit candles and took her name 3 times, but no one showed up. Then Matty left the room and asked Mike to call her by himself. Mike summoned up all the courage and gave it another try by calling out her name 3 times, but still nothing happened. Matty, who was standing outside the washroom, told Mike that he is overthinking, as all this is just a mere story. That's when the candle lights inside the room started to flicker vigorously. Matty found it weird and asked Mike if everything was okay inside. Mike was so scared that he couldn't speak. Soon, the entire lights in the washroom had gone off. Suddenly, Bloody Mary appeared in the mirror in front of Mike, and he couldn't help but scream at the top of his voice. Matty got terrified when he heard Mike scream. He tried a lot to open the door, but it was jammed from the inside. He quickly called the guard from downstairs, and they broke into the washroom. When they finally entered inside, Matty found the mirror was broken, and Mike's head was immersed in sink water. Mike was immediately taken to the hospital, but he couldn't make it. Till date, Matty blames himself for Mike's death. He thought it was all his fault that he never believed Mike, and moreover, the ghost of Bloody Mary.
My name is James, and this story is about an incident that happened with me when I was a 17-year-old boy. After a lot of hard work, I was admitted to a prestigious university, and I was ecstatic about it. I had left my village for the first time, and it was a whole new experience for me to be in a big city like Boston. I usually spent my time studying in the library. One day, while I was taking a book from one of the shelves, I saw a horrific face on the other side. I screamed out of fear, and the book fell from my hand. Listening to my scream, a girl quickly came to me and asked if I was okay. When I turned back, I was blown away by her sight. The girl looked ravishing, and I was enchanted by her beauty. The girl once again asked me if I was all right. I just nodded, and both of us started talking. We started meeting every day in the library and studied together. I'd fallen head over heels for that girl. We used to talk for hours in that library. But one day, she suddenly disappeared. When she didn't turn up in the library for a few days, I started looking for her in the entire college, but I couldn't find her anywhere. On further investigation, I came to know that no girl of that name ever studied in that college. I then went back to the library and asked the librarian if he knew where I could find that girl whom I sat and talked with for hours every day. What he told me left me shocked. He said that he never saw anyone in the library with me. I was stunned beyond words. And then I heard that girl call my name. The voice came from the same section of the library where I had met her for the first time. The girl stood there facing toward the shelf. I asked her, "Who are you?" The girl did not reply. I hesitantly went further ahead and once again asked who she was. That's when the girl turned towards me. Her face had become totally different. It was as if I saw a horrific witch, and I soon fainted. After that day, I never went back to the library. That day onwards, I believed the library was haunted by the ghost of that girl. On special request, I was able to get a transfer to a different wing within the university, and I never saw her again. But I'll never be able to forget that face. Ever. Do you like the video? Subscribe our channel Bloody Monday for spine-chilling horror stories every week. And don't forget to press the bell icon for the latest notifications.